Such beautiful images following that anthem. Thank you. So the image of the caterpillar emerging, such a profound gift for us. And we have the beautiful wings at the front of the church reminding us. And in the reading we had, thank you, Jody, from St. Paul, that definition of the faith, even though we can't see. And that's the very definition. It's that not that we see and say, well, I believe there are flowers there. That's just not a belief. The belief is in the things we can't yet see. And the challenge that we just heard about and we have been resonating with is the challenge of how do we keep on knowing ourselves as the church, as Christians, always emerging from the chrysalis, whatever it is that we're in, constantly called to come out of that chrysalis, to try into some new atmosphere, some new way. And this has been the history of not just this congregation, but the church, to emerge over and over again. And as the questions in that threshold video reminded us, there's a point where we say, actually, you know what? I'm cozy here. You go ahead. I don't think that change is necessary. And then the question comes, but what if change now is this opportunity for growth, even as for the butterfly? I want to thank Al so much for preaching last week and doing it without coffee, too. Wow. So what is the assurance of things hoped for? The assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. That's the definition, isn't it, that St. Paul gives us to work with today. And we add to that the images of this emerging. So the question, of course, is what kind of courage do we need? Because the butterfly emerges because of DNA, a drive that was hardwired in them. They can't stay in there. Well, guess we can. We can. Coming out of our chrysalis is a decision for us. Emerging again and again is a series of decisions, a series of times of trust and courage and seeking to be maybe even fierce with ourselves as we say, no, there is more out there. And it is a time of vulnerability for us, whatever it is in our lives, where we realize that we need to emerge again. It could be deciding to go to school in a different city at the end of high school, continuing our studies at maybe Royal Roads in Victoria if you live in the prairies, or at a school in Ontario if you live out here. Or it may just be taking the bus across town to a new neighborhood. That may be your emerging. It doesn't always mean that we're there with Elon Musk zodding into space, because emerge is an attitude, not an address. It's a decision to be a certain way, not in a financial ability to go certain places. And that's got to be made very clear for us. Emerge is not a place, it's a way of being on the journey. So we can emerge here in Victoria by walking down Fiskard and looking and talking to people in Chinatown. That can be a new experience for us, coming out of our chrysalis of always having people who speak our own language. It is risky faith. It's risky to try new things and go places that we're not comfortable. And that's why the butterfly image speaks so strongly to us. Because we know that when we have seen that ourselves, when we've seen people take those risks, they are as beautiful as a monarch butterfly when they take flight. Yesterday, almost $2,000 was raised here for the refugee program at the book sale. Now, for refugees leaving home, is that not the most amazing, courageous thing? Trusting people halfway across the world, speaking a different language, occupying a different place on the cultural sphere, trusting that somehow that miracle will happen, and they will leave the place where they must be hidden because of their faith, their gender identity, hidden because of their politics, or even who their parents were. And the decision to come here out of their chrysalis, it's not comfortable, is it? Those wings first unfurl on the new location. It is not comfortable. We have been told that it's akin to having a stroke coming to a new place. Even when there are folks as loving as ourselves to receive them, nothing is the same as it used to be, even how you get bread. There we are, surrounded by examples of people who are emerging again and again and again. It's not just arriving in the new country and coming off the flight. It's a series of struggling to get those wings fully inflated, fully active, to lift the weight of the butterfly body. And so metamorphosis is our seasonal image from here right through to Pentecost. For the entire season of Eastertide, we have this continuing image we're going to work with and challenge ourselves with. And I know that probably we all took home chrysalis when we were in public school and brought them home and put them in a jar and put little holes in the top of the jar to see what could happen. But inside that chrysalis, as we saw, is goo. It's not a little miniature butterfly just getting ready to grow bigger. It's goo. It completely disintegrates. The most amazing life story. So we will consider this season, what kind of transformations have we witnessed? Can we encourage and can we support and can we engage for ourselves? What kind of chrysalis can we help people, like as simple as buying books at a book sale, supporting people arriving from other countries, that we can move beyond where we were into being new people, trusting, as St. Paul challenges us to trust, that things that we can't see are still possible, that we don't have to live in a universe just of things we can touch and measure, but we can tip our toes into that world of spiritual reality where miracles are possible because they are the things we are hoping for, not the things we can measure. Last Sunday, the choir sang "In the Bulb There Is a Flower" as the anthem. And that's a series of images of the most profound and beautiful gift. Natalie Sleeth wrote that hymn. It's one of the 3 most popular hymns in Voices United. She wrote it when her husband Ronald, a professor of homiletics, had been diagnosed with a life-changing diagnosis. And she decided to create something that would speak to her children and grandchildren about what was happening. Now, if she was a quilter, she might have chosen different fabrics and had different parts of the life story represented that way. But she was a poet and a songwriter. And so she chose a series of images that could be stained glass, but with her it's words to encourage us to think about what was going to happen. And so that hymn was used by her family. She chose images to help them, and it did. We want to thank her for that and hope that her family still treasures that beautiful gift. So the transformations that she's held up for us, a song in silence, a word and melody, dawn in darkness, these are all images of hope that she's painted for us. She says, from the past will come the future. From the past will come the future. We hold on to that, don't we, with faith. And then what it holds, a mystery. So that's the trust. From the past will come the future. What it holds is a mystery for us. Unrevealed, but it's something God can see. And that's what faith and hope are all about for us this season. We know coming out of Easter, where Christ was in the darkness of the tomb. We think of Mary with the darkness of her womb at Christmastide, all places of new beginning and birth beyond anything we can explain. So, we don't have to speak of the butterfly in order to be the only places where we see goo, because we've probably all felt that feeling of goo in our own lives, where what we are counting on seems to just sort of disintegrate. Perhaps you've been at a place where one of your children hasn't been well, seriously unwell, and that inside of you turns to goo. Anyway, what I'm just trying to say here is that butterfly speaks for all of us and encourages all of us with her ability to eventually throw open those wings and soar. Now, we don't know what the future holds for any of us. We don't know what hope holds for this congregation, for this city, for this country, and for this world. There are so many things that when we look at them long and hard, we do turn to goo. The climate crisis, the rising numbers of wars, and today, I think I heard there were 45 wildfires already in our province going, this early in the year. So these are very, very difficult times for us, and we can turn to goo. And so we are challenged to emerge again and again as people of hope and faith, that there is something that can happen. There is something that we can do, that we can be part of something miraculous and new. And it won't be easy, and it's not revealed yet. And that's where the trust and faith come in. But even in darkness, even in the dark times, we find that God is with us. God is everywhere, although we may not see or touch. So darkness can become for us a place of transformation, a place of new beginnings. So we're going to try this Eastertide 2023 to see the new and miraculous coming around us and to name it, to see the chrysalises being opened as people emerge over and over again. And how can we help those wings unfurl? You know what it's like to be waiting. I'm not very good at waiting, I don't know. It's a hard thing to do, and we do it at Lent and we do it at Advent. And here we're doing it again. But our awareness of time becomes sacred. You know, if anyone ever says to you, oh, well, all it cost you was time, you want to think that was the most precious thing I've got. You know, there's that beautiful country and western song that talks about a man getting a diagnosis. And his friend says to him, well, what did you do? And he said, oh, I appreciated sweet time. Time, the sweetness. So we remember this early day that our divine gardener is active at all times, above ground where we see the flowers in bloom, and underneath the ground where we cannot see a thing happening. Active in cocoons, although to us they just look like dried up things. Active in the bulbs we planted so long ago that now are spectacular. If you go into our side yard, the ground is covered in the little pink petals from whatever tree that is that's in the yard. In the end, Natalie wrote, in the end is our beginning. In our time, infinity. In our doubt, there is believing. In our life, eternity. In our death, a resurrection. At the last, a victory. Unrevealed until its season. Something God alone can see. With thanks to God. Amen.